Welcome everyone to episode 29 of Kerbal Space Program First Contract. Now Hadbart has been out in the wilderness, out back of KSC, collecting Karbonite for several days now, so I think it's about time we recovered his vessel and got his precious cargo back to the scientists. I'll see you there. Now while we were unloading the Karbonite extractor craft that Hadbart had been using, Jean called us over to Mission Control because Kerbodyne were having a Black Friday sale. They've issued another contract with a stupidly high reward. All we have to do is to activate an LFB KR-1X2 whilst we are in Kerbin orbit at about 80 kilometers altitude through the staging sequence, and we will get 886,000 credits, funds, money. This is just too good to miss. So let's accept this contract and head over to the VAB and build a craft to deliver it. Thanks, Kerbodyne. So let's just double check our contract. So let's move down to the lower part here. It's to test the LFB KR-1X2. So this is this liquid fuel booster system. So let's start off with a probe body. That will be our main controller. Let's get a SAS controller and a battery on board, our sort of standard probe kit, and of course we will use our Kerbal engineering system. Right, what next? So okay, well let's put on our test vehicle. Now we won't need a great deal of fuel in it because we just need to get it to orbit and then fire it, so we'll probably just use that for getting back down from orbit and to rescue what we can from this craft, save ourselves a little bit of money. And to get it into orbit, we're actually going to do the opposite build of what we would normally do. We'd normally have the boosters on the outside and the main engines on the inside, but let's do this the other way around. So let's get ourselves a couple of decouplers. Let us get a couple of these large fuel tanks. That all looks good. We'll get ourselves some of these large engines. That all looks good as well. And more or less that's it, because we know we need about 4,500 delta V to get into a stable orbit, and we've got plenty of that in this stage 2 with these two outer rockets. So that's that first part of the first stage. Now we'll just reorder the staging there so we don't actually dispose of these immediately. We'll dispose of those last, because again, if we can recover those, we might save a bit more of our 111,000. Now that's still half price, so we're still doing pretty well on the advance. So let's just get our stability enhancers in place. So let's get 2 of those on the center and 2 of these on here. Now these are going to be pretty powerful engines, and they're going to certainly be pulled away from the body. So let's get some of our strut connectors, our super strut connectors, like so. So that's those 2 there. We'll put 2 on the bottom as well. So let's just... I hate it when it does that. Go away. Just pull that across. Oh, they're not straight. Okay. Let's just straighten these out. Like so. So there we go. Now we won't bother with asparagus staging because again I just want that little bit of fuel left in the centre to be triggered from staging when we are in orbit at about 80 kilometers. So that's going to be our target. Now we are going to try and get some or all of this back. So let's go to the utilities tab and look for parachutes. We've got this one, which is the double-sized variant apparently of the 16, which is that one. And then we've got this Mark 25 parachute as well. I don't think it particularly matters, but just for aesthetics, let's get a couple of those on. We'll put one of these on here as well, and then we will just liberally add these additional parachutes around that central tank like so, and hopefully that'll be enough to at least get most of our craft back down without too much destruction when it arrives. But we will see, I guess. So let's just double check our staging, which of course is now completely messed up. So let's get that down there. Let's let this in here. Let us just create a new stage there just to hold the decouplers, and this will be another Kerbodyne test. So let's save that. We've still got plenty of delta V to get us into orbit, even with our little bit of extras we added. So I think we shall head out onto the platform and fleece Kerbodyne for every credit they have. See you soon. Right, well, the Kerbodyne observers are in the control tower ready to watch this launch. So let's get the SAS on. Let's get throttle up. Now, while we prepare, let's get the Kerbal flight engineer ready to use, and let's launch away. Now we have plenty of thrust to weight ratio, so we will drop the throttle in order to try and match the terminal velocity in order to maintain maximum fuel efficiency, because we are, we've got a fair amount of fuel but not masses, so let's not be unfuel efficient. So we'll follow a standard launch profile up to about 10 kilometers and then turn over to 90 degrees, and we need an apoapsis of, well, about halfway between, so about 81, 82 kilometers. That should be plenty. We then need to circularize, activate our staging, which we are keeping an eye on over here, and then just roll in the cache. So 7,000 meters there, so 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers, 9 kilometers coming up. Just a little bit over terminal velocity, that's fine. We are getting out of the thicker part of the atmosphere now, so that's fine. Let's turn over to 90 degrees as usual. Watch our prograde come across, our prograde marker there on the nav ball, and then throttle up to get ourselves into orbit. Now these engines are prone to overheat, as you can see, but we should be fine for this part of the journey. We shouldn't have to be at maximum throttle much longer, so let's keep an eye on our height. Here we go. There we go. Perfect. So cut the engines and circularize. This is becoming to become, we're so excited for all this cash, a very, very straightforward activity. So let's watch for, there we go, periapsis come out, a little bit over, and we're a little bit, can't quite get hold of the, oh there we go, move that back a little. So we've dropped down a little, I think. Apoapsis has come down a little. So let's just throttle up slightly. Get the nav ball up, throttle up slightly. Just bring our apoapsis up again. Atmospheric drag is just bringing it down a little, so let's just make sure. Bring that round, so don't need quite as much. There we go, 81 and 80, that should be fine. I don't think we're losing too much. So we have a 19-second burn in a minute's time. So we'll go on the 9, shall we? That should be fine. Bring ourselves around to the blue reticule. We can hear the space music in the background, so we are now in orbit. So let's just check on our masterpiece. I hope Kerbodyne are watching their money go up in flames. But we did quite well on the advance. We were about 50% of the advance, so that's all profit too. So this is nigh on 1 million funds. Thank you very much. So here we go with 25 seconds. Don't really need this display now. We just need to check when we're in orbit. We've met the height requirement. We're obviously around Kerbin. And there we go. Let's start burning away. Bringing ourselves into a nice stable orbit. We cut out just a little too early. There we go. We are now in orbit at the right height. So we trigger the engines even though the throttle is down. It's absolutely perfect. And we have another almost 1 million funds in the bank. But we've now got to get this thing back to Kerbin surface. If we have enough fuel. I think we'll have enough fuel. We're hardly in a massive orbit. And I think just a... Can you be in a massive orbit? I don't know. We're in orbit. But let's use up what little fuel we have left just to deorbit. We don't want any junk left up here, and we want to save as much money as we can. So we bring ourselves round to the prograde marker. There we go. And let's hit the throttle. The camera flips. So we are definitely no longer in orbit. We run out of fuel in all our stages. So we are coming down. We are coming down in the ocean. The brick hard, concrete hard ocean, as we know from previous experiments. But we are at least coming down. So we should be able to recover most of the craft if we have estimated our parachute effectiveness effectively. Right, so somewhere in that ocean. But let's make sure Kerbodyne have a nice close-up shot of their experiment, just to prove that their funds have been well wasted. So I think, without much ado, let's use the facility of time warp just to bring us round and into descent. Now we need to get down to about 30 kilometers before the thicker part of the atmosphere starts to affect us significantly. So let's do that with the aid of time warp. Coming around, starting to get into the top part of the atmosphere. There we go, coming to the thicker part of the atmosphere. So let's just get ourselves back on the retrograde marker as we begin to tear into the atmosphere. There you go, there's the heat effects. Our velocity is starting to drop dramatically. And as soon as we get through this part of the atmosphere, we will pop the chutes. And hopefully, cross fingers, recover much of this vehicle. Of course, we're not exactly near to KSC, so we will lose something on the cost of recovery. So we'll switch the T key off now, just let the parachutes do their thing. And we descend. Nice. Nice and simple, basic design. Very effective, works nicely. If, of course, the parachutes work, that is. And it's all good funds, because we are going to be building this base on the asteroid we are soon to capture. So all the more funds, the better. Bases aren't exactly the cheapest things to build, as we will soon discover, hopefully. So that's 2.5 kilometers up. Parachutes, so the main parachutes have popped and filled out, so that's excellent. So that's bringing our speed right down, so that should reduce the shock when these main parachutes open here, and that should really bring our speed down to a nice healthy below 10 meters per second. One prays. Because these oceans are surprisingly hard for splashdown, so don't expect to recover much if you don't add sufficient parachutes. So cross fingers, we have about 500 meters to go before we find out if this thing's going to fall to bits, because these outer parts are too heavy for these joints and parachutes to compensate for. So 700 meters, going on 600. Here we go, cross your fingers. Lovely. 12 meters per second. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Maybe we should have added more parachutes. There's always a thing about adding more boosters, but in this case, I think we may have needed more parachutes. Oh dear. But what the heck, Kerbodyne have been generous. We're just trying to be clean and tidy. 90 meters to go. Here we go. Ah! Didn't make it. The joints broke and we lost the outer tanks. More parachutes. Still, we can recover this vessel and see what we did actually get back, because, well, you know, it's all money after all. Moment of truth time. We recovered a vessel and recovered no science. That's fine. We're not after science anymore. We did pretty well on the funds. Well, I say that. I think it was about, was it 11,000 funds? So we've really only got about, well, 15% back. We did lose quite a bit, but we lost 2/3 of the vessel. So, okay. Could have done with more parachutes. Obviously there was no crew, because Hadbart and the others are safe and sound. So with that said, I'd like to thank you for watching. I'd like to thank Kerbodyne for their generosity. If you would like to like or subscribe, please do so. And I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.